Hi, I'm David Soerensen. Welcome to this issue of Recruiter Intel Spotlight by Lucas Group. Today, I'm really pleased to have Jen Soerensen with us. Jen is a senior partner at Lucas Group, focused on the world of human resources professionals. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Jen, I know we had a chance to talk a little bit about your background, but just to introduce yourself to everyone, could you just kind of take us through some of your experience and how you got into HR recruiting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a 10-year corporate HR background, actually specialized in organizational development at one point as well. And I got into the third-party recruiting. I knew our general manager, Sarah Luther. We had a great relationship overall. And I was at a point in my career where I thought, I really want to think about what's next for me and had the opportunity to do some reflection. And third-party recruiting, specifically in the HR space, really gave me the opportunity to combine the two things that I loved, which were human resources, as well as making sure that I am placing people in the best roles possible, both for client side, helping clients, as well as candidates.
Excellent. So that's a big transition from the being in corporate HR to now the world of executive recruiting, being a third-party recruiter. What made you make that transition?
I think I was just at a point in my career where I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to ensure that I still had some connection to human resources, which I do. So it's great to still be able to stay up to date through clients and candidates in terms of what's going on, what's happening with their organizations or with their teams. And, the third party space was definitely something that was just different for me. And I thought, I really want to try this because I've always had a passion for helping people, again, whether that's clients or candidates, but I've always had a passion of really helping them to understand what do they want to do more of, what do they want to do less of, how can we just be better overall as professionals and individuals. And that's what I get to do every day. And it's so much fun.
Well, I can just tell from your enthusiasm how rewarding you find it helping HR professionals to find new opportunities. But let's talk a little bit about the other side. So last year was a tough year. I mean, a pandemic aside, which made life tough for everybody, but in the world of human resources, it was a really rough year. We're going to talk a little bit today, not so much on the client, the employer side, but more on the role of the job seeker and for your friends who are in HR. For those people who are looking for new opportunities, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so whenever you're looking for a new opportunity, it's a full-time job in and of itself. If you currently have a job, it's also incredibly challenging to balance. I always tell candidates that you really need to do more. And here's what I mean by that. Don't just apply to roles that are posted. Go the extra mile. So what you really want to do is reach out to folks that are high level in talent acquisition, high level in human resources, drill down certain organizations that you may think highly of. I tell candidates that all the time, have your short list, really do your due diligence, have a story as to why the organization is appealing for you. Perhaps you have some connections at that company that you can utilize and network with, but you have to go the extra mile. Candidates can sometimes go into an abyss, is what I call it, depending on how many people are actually applying to a role. And you don't want to get lost in some of that. So set yourself apart is typically what I will encourage as well. And by having the list of organizations that you think highly of, having your target list of professionals at those companies to reach out to already makes you stand out. Whether there's a role that's posted or not. I think today in general is a lot about networking and really just having conversations, whether something comes of it now or 3 months from now, a year from now, those are valuable. So I think setting yourself apart in a market that is a little bit nutty in general right now, right? Given we're still going through some of the things with the pandemic, but keep at it. I think a lot of people too can tend to give up a little bit too easily or perhaps settle. And you don't want to do that. You really want to put the homework in.
Yeah, persistence is hard, especially, when you're getting rejection or you're getting nothing and you're trying and you're trying and you're trying, and then the persistence is so important. The other thing I really like is that message of differentiation. So I'm a marketer at heart, and that's like marketing 101 is how do you make yourself stand out? How do you differentiate yourself? We're going to talk a little bit more about some do's and don'ts, but I think for anybody in human resources, you know, you are on the other side of the desk. You know what it's like when your department's reviewing resumes. You know how people look at things. So think about from your own process, what you've seen in the past and what stood out to you. That may be a good place to figure out what to do differently in your own search. One of the things that you mentioned to me in our prior conversation was the importance of taking your search deeper. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, again, I mean, I touched on it just a little bit. I got ahead of myself, but I think just not just putting your resume out there and applying for jobs. That's great, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but really knowing the organizations that you want to go after, whether or not there's a role or not. Quite frankly, a lot of the roles that we've been working on are confidential in nature. So those are the things that are not going to be posted. So you could potentially have a leg up, again, if you're doing this and actually reaching out to some of the decision makers within these organizations. I also would say when you are reaching out, it cannot be something that's canned. I've seen them myself when people are reaching out to me, and I typically know when it's some sort of a canned outreach. Look, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying elevate, right? Put a little bit more thought into something when you're reaching out, because you, again, first chance to make a first impression, right? One shot to make a first impression. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for potential success or for a potential discussion overall. Again, job searching is a full-time job. So when you're doing it, you want to make sure that you're doing it the best way possible overall. Utilize your network, make connections together. Now, because of the pandemic, people were open to connect previously, to network, right?
Absolutely.
Even more so now. I've kind of been in the mindset of we are all in this together. And if I can help you, whether that's directly or indirectly, I want to. And a lot of professionals within HR are the same way. And again, whether or not there's a role today, whether or not they may know someone at another organization that may not be on your target list, but they're hiring, and you can have the ability to have another connection, that's invaluable.
One of the things I was thinking about is, the way you reach out. So, you can network, and we could reach out on LinkedIn. I can pick up the phone. I can try to email people. But clearly, when you're job hunting, you're sending out resumes. What should an HR professional think about when putting together a resume to make it stand out?
That's a great question. It should not look like a job spec. A lot of times I will see resumes that read like a job description. And again, it's okay. But if you're trying to stand out in this market, you have got to have quantifiable results. If I don't see results in a resume, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't speak with the person, but probably not going to have the sense of urgency if I'm doing an apples to apples comparison, one resume against the other, and I see that someone has a number of different quantifiable results, whether that's savings, whether that's increased retention, whether that's, building something from scratch, which led to increased employee engagement and morale, and showcasing some of the data behind that. It's going to stand out. And that's what people are up against right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is really to make sure that you're demonstrating your accomplishments. And even in the writing style, make sure you're engaging people and using language that's going to resonate with them. You also mentioned not making your outreach generic. What about the resume itself? Should that be customized for individual organizations you're going after, or is that not really important?
I think it depends. If it is a specialized role in, let's say, talent management, and your heavy focus on business partner, but you've had the opportunity within your roles as a human resources business partner to take on pieces of talent management. Perhaps you haven't specialized per se, but yes, in those instances, I would absolutely bulk up my resume more with some of that niche experience that may not necessarily translate based on what you have today.
Awesome. Okay, so far we've talked a lot about getting an employer interested in having the first conversation. So now you got them on the hook. And so they're interested in you. They want to have that conversation. Once the process gets started, what should someone do to help ensure their success?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Do your research. Research the company. you don't have to know everything, right? I think that that's unfair to have expectations that a candidate knows everything about an organization. It's not possible. But understand the organization enough to be dangerous, understand the person that you are going to be speaking with, look them up on LinkedIn. Where have they been within their past career? Do you have any connections in common? I think that that's important to note. Make sure that you have questions ready to ask. I don't think that it speaks highly of someone or thought highly of someone that says, oh, no, you've answered all my questions. Probably not the case. So ensure that you have questions. Make sure that you are being respectful of their time as well. I've talked to people and I've had them blocked for a certain amount of time, and we go over, and look, conversations can go over all the time. It happens, especially when you get really excited about a topic or something that you're speaking of, right? But I think that it's important to ensure that you're watching the time and asking, I know that we're getting to the end. Do you have a little bit more time? I'd like to go deeper here.
Great idea.
Keeping a positive attitude. One of the things that has happened through the pandemic, if people were negatively impacted and perhaps were laid off, furloughed, et cetera, you can get into a mindset that's not exactly one that is favorable, right? You can get kind of down in the dumps a little bit. We're human. Pep yourself up beforehand. Do whatever you need to do, whatever gets you pumped up. I have colleagues who will dance around to music before they get on a call, maybe with someone, right? There are people that will listen to music and blare it and just, their favorite song. Do something to get in a really positive frame of mind. That comes across loud and clear, especially if you're on video. And a lot of clients are doing video interviews now because of our situation.
Sure. I love that. I actually have a friend who's a consultant, sales consultant. And when he's teaching people to cold call, he gives them a foam red clown nose. And he said, put it on. And people are like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to put on a clown nose before I make calls. He goes, put it on and look in the mirror, because you will laugh and you will smile. And that smile is all you need to start the call, because it's going to come through in your voice. It's going to come through in your attitude, not the I'm dreading making another call. So I love your advice of just put yourself in the right frame of mind before you reach out. Okay, before we wrap things up, mind if we do a few quick questions?
Sure.
Okay, cover letters, yes or no?
No.
Best way to follow up after an interview?
You need to send a thank you note, and it needs to be very specific to the interview itself. Nothing canned.
Excellent. Favorite advice for Zoom interview success?
These are great. Just make sure that you're in a place where you're relatively undisturbed, right? I think a lot of people are dealing with having kids home if they're still virtually learning, having animals or pets or anything like that. Look, again,
cat walking across the screen, that always works well.
It actually has happened before. I've gotten that feedback from folks that it has happened. Make sure that you're in a quiet place. Make sure that you're in a spot where you can focus. Really pay attention during the call. Try to have as few distractions as possible.
Okay. What's your one favorite job hunting must do?
Yeah. When you've applied for a role and you have interviewed and you sent your thank you note and all of that, if someone doesn't get back to you, don't view it as a bad thing. Reach out to them.
Excellent. Be proactive. Love it. All right. Last question. One must not do.
One must not do. Don't be sloppy. When you are applying or reaching out to this many people for your search, know the jobs that you've applied to, know the players, know the companies and professionals that you've reached out to at a high level. Keep a spreadsheet if you have to. Stay organized.
Awesome. And Jen, I'm assuming that people who are looking, you're the perfect person to reach out to. So how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can email me. They can call me. They can text me. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am generally around. And even if it's not me that can help from an HR standpoint, I can at least point them in the right direction.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jen. Great information. Appreciate you taking time to be part of this Recruiter Intel Spotlight.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.